Hello everyone. The look I'm going to be doing for you today is a very simple look. It's mainly focusing around the eyes, very wearable to almost all events. It involves probably only one or two colours. I might go for 3 colours, but I'm going to be explaining the steps, how to achieve a very simple sculpted eye. It's not an extreme look, so it's very much a look that's very suitable for the beginners. Now, I've missed out my foundation routine and my eyebrows. I already have both of those on. The foundation I'm currently wearing is, I have a Kryolan mattifying HD foundation on in the shade 505 and Illamasqua Skinbase in the shade 2 applied on top, combined with Dermacolor concealers in shades D2W and D707. And to finalise my base, I set it through with Kryolan's transparent powder in the shade TL3, which is just a transparent loose powder with a slight pink undertone to it. I tend to wear much more full coverage foundation than most people. It's just personal preference. With me, I have very fair skin, as you can see. It's very freckly, and I find that without a full coverage foundation on, it can sometimes look quite muddy unless they're concealed. The palette I'm using today is a fantastic palette by Louise Young. If you don't have access to this palette, I will be showing you other alternatives or the kind of things that you might have at home. What you will need is sort of a taupe of any colour, and it depends on your skin tone as well. For me, a very pale bone and a taupe is perfect for this kind of look. Whereas if you're on the other end of the spectrum with very dark skin, I would say go for something like a darker brown with a lighter brown. I would just adjust it to what you have, and you probably will have a brown within your own makeup bag. MAC most certainly do quite a comprehensive range of colours which are very useful. Vanilla by MAC is also an excellent bone colour. I wouldn't say it's as opaque as the Ting in the Louise Young palette, but I certainly would merit it, and I would say it's a great alternative. I've hit pan in this one. This is Brulee, which is quite a light brown. I would say it's sort of borderline, sort of mousy brown, sort of cream colour. I use it so much when working, actually. It's great for just washing the lid with a sort of just a colour to even everything out. Then, of course, our trusted Omega, which is also a fantastic colour. Then there is Patina. Now, I'd say Patina is probably appropriate if you have a slightly more deeper skin tone, because it has a little bit of satin to it. It's a little bit shimmery on the... It's not quite a shimmer, but it's sort of more of a satin colour. Then you have Espresso, which is a fantastic brown. It would be very dark on sort of my complexion, but if you're a lot deeper, it could work as a contour colour, or it can work as a base tone if you've got very deep skin. Soft brown is another colour which is appropriate to use. Urban Decay Naked Palette, and these are the 2 lightest shades, which is Virgin and Sin, which are both shimmer shades. They're sort of both satiny shimmer shades. I wouldn't say they're metallic, but they're certainly got a bit of shimmer in them. 2 more shades from the Naked palette which would be very suitable. Naked and Buck. Naked is very similar to Omega, actually, a little bit warmer and very similar to all of the other colours that I've mentioned today, but it's certainly a suitable colour for this look, as is Buck. And I think these two shades are quite accessible to people. I'm aware that Urban Decay's Naked palette is certainly very popular and possessed by many, many people. In this look, I'm only going to use mainly 2 brushes. I might use 1 or 2 more, but for the main part, I'm only going to use 2. I have 3 brushes here that are fantastic for eye makeup. This one is MAC's famous 217. It's certainly a very comprehensive brush, and it's very dense, and it's great for blending. And another brush which is very, very useful by MAC, and it's a very popular one as well, and it's the 239. And this is great for sort of packing on colour onto the lid. We probably wouldn't use it today, but I thought I'd mention it. But it certainly works within this look if you didn't have maybe a 217 and only had a flat brush. But I'd certainly say a blending brush of any type is absolutely necessary. This brush is by Zova, and it is the 228 crease brush. It's tapered all the way around, so it perfectly fits into the crease. I'd say the 217 does also, but the 217 is shaped more sort of like a fingertip, whereas this one is more almost pen-like. But it's fantastic for getting into the crease, and it's very movable, and it's perfect for this look. It's also conveniently very affordable. It's certainly one of my most favourite brushes. So to begin with, I'm taking my MAC 217. If you take your brush and just dip it in the eyeshadow, it doesn't matter if you get quite a lot on. What I'm going to do is just sort of slap it on, as uncouth as that might sound. It's very effective. But I'm just sort of giving it, just washing the eyelid, and it almost looks as if I'm doing nothing. But what this does, by applying a base colour, I don't have any primer on either, I have sort of its bare eyelid. This knocks out any colour in the eyelid. So if you have red veins or tired eyes, it's fantastic for just reducing the appearance of any imperfections, if you want to call them that. Or signs of stress is another way of putting it. This look is very much about minimal effort, maximum impact. And then you can always take your crease brush, and if you feel that you've sort of got any harshness, you can just go through quite softly, like I'm doing. And whilst you're doing this, sort of, if this is quite a new thing to you, what to do is just sort of, don't go too harsh, just softly sort of, it's almost as if you're dusting the eyelid. And you'll see that I'm not really going down underneath or past the waterline. And what I mean by that, we don't really want to droop the eye, we don't want to make it look like that. That's not really the most desired look by most people's standards. I don't really oppose you if you're wanting to go for sort of a droopy-eyed look, but for today, I'm going to be talking mainly about how to lift the eye. So we've used our sort of a blending brush just to sort of pack on a bit of colour, and it's not done neat in the slightest bit. It doesn't need to be. It's just about cancelling out the shade. Again, with our palette, I'm using the same brush that we used to pack on our very light shade, and then I'm going to take the darker shade, get a little bit of it on the brush, and you'll see that that probably looks like quite a lot. And if we go straight in with that, it probably will be. So, a little trick that you can do, certainly seems a little bit illogical to most beginners, it tends to baffle people when I explain it to them, is if you take your hand, and if you just buff off a little bit of the product, it takes off the excess. But what that allows us to do is go in, and the product that's actually on the brush, we don't get too much on, and we start to build up colour, and you take just it's a small amount, that's all you need. Now I've got quite hooded eyes, if I don't tense the muscles in my forehead, I tend to look like this a lot, tend to look slightly enraged. So if you have hooded eyes, what you can do is just lift that area and sort of sculpt. Now you don't want to lift it too much, otherwise you're sort of sculpting, then when you go back normal, there's nothing to be seen. Once you start to sort of see the colour building up, you sort of just buff over slightly like that. Nothing too harsh, that's the key. I'm sort of moving it backwards and forwards, but sort of rotating it at the same time. And if you feel that it's not really looking the way you want it to, that's where you go in with your crease brush. You can probably see that that's added just a little bit of definition, but like before, when I mentioned that we want to lift up, another trick to lifting the eye up is if you look at the outer corner of the eye and take the brush without having put any of it on the back of your hand, so there's quite an excess bit of product, and just place that and wing it, pull it over the eyelid. Now that looks pretty messy, but what we do is, if you just keep on sort of blending it into the eye, every time you apply more colour, go in and blend and soften. So it's about building up in small layers. Beautiful makeup though tends to always be seamless. Unless of course you're doing like an avant-garde look or something that's very arty, but for sort of, beauty looks or sort of everyday looks, seamlessness is the most attractive thing on the eye. And if you find that the edge isn't going in a funny shape that you don't like, if you take our pale colour and on the crease brush, and you can just sort of move it across and almost cancel out. For beginners who are new to this is what we call blending. It's quite a natural sort of sculpt that. It's sort of brought shape to the eye in a very natural way. If you just take your brush, you can softly just go through the socket just to make sure that there's no sort of, no real harsh lines. That's the great thing about working with two brushes as opposed to one, that you can always just use one for going back in. It adds just a little bit of definition. Now you could go in with mascara and that would be finished if you wanted. I'm going to add a little bit to the bottom, and I'm going to use a pencil brush. This one's a little bit more precise than the others. It's very similar to the crease brush, but way smaller and way more precise, and they tend to be a little bit more dense pencil brushes. This pencil brush is by Inglot, and it is the 80HPZ brush. And I'm going to go back in with our second lightest colour, with the Maui colour. I wouldn't really say it's important to knock off any of the product on your hand, just apply it a little bit. Now because my eyes are quite hooded and they're quite deep set, I can actually get away with using quite a bit, taking it quite deep. So that's the underneath done, and you could just go in with mascara. I would definitely give them good curl before you do so. However, I'm going to bring more depth to the eye. I'm going to use this Pum Pum colour, on the 217 that I used earlier for the eyes. I'm just going to take a little bit of on the brush. I would say dab it off on the back of your hand, but because I'm sort of a little bit more used to this colour, I'm sort of just placing it in the crease. And the beauty of having the lighter grey down first is that it almost acts as sort of a base, this one. Now I think I'm going to leave the eyes there, however I'm just going to take a flesh toned colour, sort of a cool pencil. This one is by Smashbox and it's a retractable one, and it's a flesh toned colour, so it's very similar to my actual skin tone, but what I'm going to do is apply that to the inner waterline. And what that does, it lifts the redness away from the eyes and makes the eyes look instantly a little bit bigger and brighter. However, I would only recommend a flesh tone that was sort of a cream colour. I like this one, or a light pink. I would thoroughly frown against using a white pencil. I think they just make the eyes look redder, they make the eyes look ill and bloodshot, and I just think it just looks really cheap white on the waterline, in my opinion, on any skin tone, even on my own. I think it just looks a little ghastly. So I would avoid using white. And then on the same Inglot pencil brush, I'm going to take some of that Pum colour, the darkish brown, and just sort of pat it. And then taking the 217 that we used earlier and blending it over. You can actually do this with your eye open if you want. Now I'm going to go in and curl my eyelashes. I'd recommend curling your eyelashes before applying mascara. It just makes the eyes look so much better. And the lashes are bigger, brighter, more awake. It lifts the eye completely, as you'll see in a moment. I'm using the QVS lashes. These tend to be my favourite because I like the handle. It's sort of a squidgy handle as opposed to the typical sort of scissor-like handles. So moving on to mascara, I usually go in with the Giorgio Armani Eyes to Kill mascara. I think it's a fantastic mascara. It's probably one of the only ones in the market that I would merit as being truly waterproof. However, in saying that, it really is waterproof, and I tend to have a bit of difficulty removing it at the end of the day. So today I'm going to go in with another favourite of mine, which is the MAC Zoom Lash. And what I would recommend is applying quite a good coat of mascara to the lashes. So if you put it into the base of the lash and wiggle slightly, and add a little coat, just a little to the bottom. So if you're new to mascara, just brush up slowly and don't apply too much, but you'll really blacken the lashes. As you can see, mascara certainly does work wonders, most definitely on my eyes. I think I'm going to leave the eyes there and not add any more to them, otherwise it'll become just a very complicated look. And for contour, I'm not going to go in with anything major. I think I'm going to keep it quite a plain look, because the lips I'll be doing are a little bit strong, so I don't want it to look too overdone. So I'm going to go in with this, and this is Inglot's 349 colour, and I'm going to take it on a NARS number 9 brush. The way that I contour, some people contour underneath the cheekbone or sort of on it. I sort of do a gradient of underneath and sort of on the underneath, if that makes sense. You can really swirl product if the rest of your makeup is set properly. That sort of shape sort of suits my face, and I sort of curve it in slightly. And for blush, I'm going to go in with a very pale pink colour. This one is called Katie, and it's by Illamasqua. I'm going to use the same NARS brush with the Katie, but I'm taking the excess of the contour off on the back of my hand, and then just apply a very sort of faint amount. And then I'm going to apply some highlighter, and this is MAC Studio Fix Powder Foundation in the shade Shivering White, and I'm applying it on a Charles Fox 8146033 brush. Last but not least, lips. I'm going to use Charlotte Tilbury's lip liner in Pillow Talk, which is a fantastic colour. It's sort of like a pink nude. A similar colour by MAC would be Soar. Soar is a little bit more pink. This is a little bit more sort of brown tones in it. And when you work the product into the lip with a lip brush, it'll create a very indelible stain. And even if you powder lip liner, it tends to last even longer. Now I tend to overdraw my lips slightly, certainly on the top, not so much on the bottom. I've got quite a fat bottom lip, but the top, on the other hand, is completely unsymmetrical. One side rises higher, whereas the other one is sort of lower, so I have to overdraw it. I filled in the lips completely with a Pillow Talk, and I added a little bit of Soar by MAC, which is a sort of a slightly darker lip liner. It's a little bit more towards the raspberry side of things. Lips tend to be a personal preference, and this look was mainly focused on the eyes. And now I'm going to go in with another Charlotte Tilbury product. This one is called Amazing Grace, and it's a matte lipstick. I really like this colour. It's sort of like my natural colour, but a little bit more sort of reddy raspberry in it, and a little bit brighter. So it's great against my own natural lip colour. I have zero inhibitions about applying it from the bullet, as it's my own lipstick. So the lipstick applied, that more or less completes the look. I understand that sort of dark lips aren't for everybody, but the eyes are very simple. 2 colours, 3 brushes, you could even do it with 2 brushes, and mascara. And of course I haven't made any videos in quite some time or spoken to any of my viewers in a very long time, but I've just been very, very busy within the last year, and certainly busy within work. Although within regards to work, my work has been recently published on the front cover of HUF Magazine, issue 36, the February 2015 issue, and I have the magazine here to show you. So it's my work on the front cover. I shot this with the incredibly talented photographers Alexander and Moritz, with the incredible model Curtis Reid. I'm really, really proud of this, as it's my first ever front cover, so it's you know, a milestone for me. The look that I created for the cover and for the rest of the images within are of course very different to the kind of looks that I bring to use here on YouTube. I believe that HUF is an internationally published magazine, so I will leave all the information within the description. You can get it digitally, in a magazine format, or in the hard copy format like I did. But aside from that, once again, thank you so much for watching, and of course, take care of yourself. Bye!